Hey there gang, Kawaii50 here with another FGO video, and I hope you're having a truly fantastic case files event solving all of your mysteries by just hitting stuff in the face with Sakata Kintoki. But this is not the time to talk about Sakata Kintoki. This is the time to talk about the reason many of you are playing the case files event. That's right, it is time to talk about one of the most beloved event servants in Fate Grand Order, the 4-star assassin, Gray. We're going to be going over all aspects of Gray's kit and some of the best ways to use her in any of your teams. So, this video helps you out, be sure to go ahead, like, and subscribe. Just a little bit of warning, Gray's kit is a wee bit strange, at least from the stat side of things. She's got a quick Arts Buster deck and a Buster type AoE Noble Phantasm. It's a weird balance, but I mean if her Phantasm was quick, that might be a little bit OP, so I can kind of understand the direction that they went in with this character. Her max HP at 10,580 is a solid base, and her max attack at 9,456 is on the higher end. Just remember that takes a little bit of a hit because of her assassin class. What's more impressive is her NP per hit at a 0.71%. With 3 quick cards and 1 arts card, she is going to have the potential to build up to her Noble Phantasm in a fairly expedited manner. Her star absorption is average. We're looking at around the 99 to 100 range, so you can expect some of your stars to flow towards her, and it might even be a good idea to buff up some of her star gather, if that's what you're into. Gray actually does have 2 very good passive skills, in addition to the standard magic resistance. Independent Action rank A+, grants her an 11% boost to her critical strength, but more importantly, King's Image rank A grants her a passive 10% increase to her Noble Phantasm gain. This, coupled with a 0.71 NP gain on top of that, means that Gray doesn't really have any problems generating Noble Phantasm, which I'm sure to a lot of players out there who like using Buster heavy servants, this is a welcome reprieve for their Buster teams. Gray's first skill is Anti-Spirit Combat rank B. This increases her attack by 20 to 30% for 3 turns, and also gives her a special attack bonus against undead enemies. This is a 50 to 100%. This skill is also on a relatively low 5-turn cooldown at rank 10, meaning she's going to be able to have relatively low downtime with this skill. I highly recommend maxing this skill second. A standard attack boost all across the board helps the fact that Gray's overall attack is hit a little bit by her assassin class, and if you're fighting undead enemies, well, you might not have anyone better when it comes to mowing down waves of zombies. Gray's second skill is Mystic Code Seal Release, rank C. Do not let the rank C fool you. This is actually a very good buff for Gray. This grants her a 20 to 40% boost to her quick and Buster card effectiveness, and also has a 6-turn cooldown. It also has a little bonus of granting her 1 instance of invincibility, but this is more gravy than anything else. You won't really be using this skill for survivability all that often. I recommend maxing this skill first. This would honestly be a pretty generic skill if we were looking at just a Buster card increase. But the fact that it grants the quick card increase as well, with Gray having such a quick heavy deck, you should be able to get 1 turn of very strong bursty damage out of Gray using this skill. Gray's final skill is Protection of the World's End rank B. This grants her a flat 20% increase to her Noble Phantasm gauge, and also increases her debuff resist by 20 to 30% for 3 turns. And it is very easy to see why we are going to max this skill last. Or honestly, you could go all of Fate Grand Order without sinking any materials into this skill, and you would probably be just fine. The NP gauge increase is really all that you're going to need, and this is going to be great for masters who have just a regular kaleidoscope, and not a max limit broken kaleidoscope. But honestly, you're probably not going to be using this skill all that much, other than just a short boost to her Noble Phantasm on the very first wave. Don't worry about it. This is easily Gray's worst skill. Gray's Noble Phantasm is the ever-impressive Rongo Miniad. This deals 300 to 500% damage to all enemies, and let's be real, if you're grinding for this event servant, you're gonna NP5 her, so that's 500% damage. This also has an added effect tied to Overcharge, where it decreases the quick and buster resist of all enemies by 20 to 40% for 3 turns. That boost in and of itself is huge. If you can find some way to make it so Gray can charge her Noble Phantasm quickly, after the fact, maybe you even choose to run her with Skahawk Scotties because of her quick heavy deck on top of a Merlin if you're a Hyper Whale, you can definitely get some serious damage out of Gray because of this. But more often than not, Masters are going to find that that quick and buster resist is just going to help boost your overall team's DPS, Gray's included. It really is a brilliant overcharge effect, and in my opinion, one of the best overcharge effects we've ever gotten on a freebie servant. Gray is a farming servant and an undead fighter through and through, so we want to give her craft essences that are going to reflect and boost that role. Starting with 2 freebie options, we've of course got Golden Sumo Boulder Tournament. This will help boost Gray's attack overall, which is going to help her overall damage on all of her cards, and give her a starting NP steroid. We can also, of course, consider Aerial Drive, which also gives us a starting NP gauge, but also will raise Gray's Buster card effectiveness and NP strength, overall increasing the damage that Rangominiad deals to all enemies. If you're looking for pure NP damage on Gray, maybe you're using her for a challenge quest and have a team that can just come in and easily supercharge her Noble Phantasm, definitely look no further than the Black Grail, still the most powerful NP strength booster in the entire game. And of course, for your general farming role, the craft essence you are likely going to see on Gray the most, be it in your friend's support list or on your own team, is going to be Kaleidoscope. There is just no escaping the overall raw power in this craft essence. Of course, featured heavily by the guy on the front, Kaleidoscope Guy. Let's be real, you guys did not know this man's name in Heaven's Feel. It's honestly very, very difficult for me to recommend allies for Gray outside of your standard big budget supports. She is a farmer through and through, so you want servants that are going to be able to give her overall NP charge so she can use Rangominiad often. This means that Merlin and of course her teacher Waver are the most prime candidates to pair her with. But that doesn't mean there aren't other options, both on NA as well as JP. There are quite a few servants that can help her out in quite a few surprising ways. Let's of course start with our freebie option, and sorry NA, this freebie option is JP only right now. And I'm talking about Kichi Hogan. Kichi Hogan has the ability to grant Gray an NP gauge increase, a decent 10 to 20% that can of course stack with Gray's 3rd skill, and also increase Gray's critical star gather rate, trying to make those stars flow to Gray's quick cards and arts card. She is also able to grant Gray an attack increase as well as an NP gain increase that will of course stack with Gray's passive NP gain boost. On top of that, they're both assassins. If you're fighting an enemy that is weak against Gray, that enemy is probably weak against Kichi Hogan as well. I definitely want to give a shout out to a servant that has really helped me through thick and thin and is a good pairing for Gray that I found, and that is Helena Blavatsky. Not only can Helena give Gray an NP gauge boost, but she can also grant some critical stars every single turn, increase her own NP gauge after she gets buffed. Sorry NA, gotta wait till 2023 for that. And most importantly, use her Search for the Unknown ability to increase the effectiveness of all of Gray's cards. There is a reason Helena is called the Budget Waver, and she has more than earned that name. Osakabe Hime is of course a very powerful option to pair Gray with. Her Chiogami Technique ability increases Gray's NP gauge and also increases her critical star drop rate, which is really helpful considering Gray's stacked quick deck. Osakabe Hime's Noble Phantasm will also increase Gray's quick and buster card effectiveness and grant her a defense boost. Since that effectiveness boost is tied to overcharge, you'll want to, in an ideal situation, use someone else's Noble Phantasm first, maybe say Waver's Unreturning Formation, followed by Osakabe Hime's Noble Phantasm, which will get a boost to quick and buster card effectiveness off the overcharge, and then finally go ahead and hit them with Gray to ensure that your enemies are going to take a lot of damage on subsequent turns because of those myriad buffs that Gray now has. Vinci Rider is of course another strong option for Gray, mainly because of her Dream of the Stars rank D ability. This will grant Gray an NP strength increase her NP gauge a little bit, but more importantly will increase the overcharge level of Gray's Noble Phantasm by 1. With that overcharge level increase, a standard Gray Noble Phantasm will decrease the quick resist of all the enemies by 25% instead of 20, which means more overall damage for your entire team. And finally, of course, there is Surma Yi. Maybe not now, but definitely in the future, after Surma Yi gets all of her buffs. Supreme Mystic Code Volume N Hydrogyrum will be able to grant Gray an NP gauge increase, and also grant her some much needed invincibility, not tied to a damage dealing skill. Of course, Emperor's Wand's Command can grant Gray an attack gauge increase and also increase her NP gauge, and Tactician's Advice already grants an NP gauge increase as well. Surma Yi's Noble Phantasm is going to be very, very powerful for Gray, especially considering it will not only decrease defense, but allow Gray to ignore class disadvantage, meaning she's going to be able to stick around longer, even with that fairly weak invincibility buff she has tied to her main damaging skill. Overall, a very, very strong boost for Gray. Shows they really work well together, like in the Case Files event. For Gray's command codes, there are a couple of different ways you can go. You can either end up going full hog into NP gain and NP damage, maximizing the effectiveness of Rongominiad, or you can try to use your options available to turn Gray into an undead slayer, or really any combination of the two. It is all up to you. If you're looking to give her a better chance at boosting her NP gain and star drop rate, look for things like Immature Illusionary Command Seal, or for example, the quick card option, the one that carries Fortune. This will increase the critical star absorption of those cards, ensuring that Gray is able to crit and gain the most out of those cards. Of course, we've definitely got to recommend Da Vinci Chan for Gray. This will grant her NP damage up by 15% for 1 turn when attacking using the engraved card. You have to use the engraved card before the Noble Phantasm. Let's make that abundantly clear. But it's honestly going to be fine if you choose to sacrifice Gray's Buster card to increase the damage of her Noble Phantasm. Gray's pretty much a guaranteed NP5 that is going to be your main source of damage anyways. And if you're looking to maximize her damage against undead enemies, well, I've got a 3-star and a 4-star option for you there. Sky Blue Corpse Command Seal is going to increase the damage against undead enemies by 10% on the engraved card. You'll want to chuck this on a Quick or a Buster card, since those are Gray's primary sources of damage. And of course, Gray is going to gain maximum benefit from Ad's own command code, Intangible Case. Instead of a 10%, this grants you a 15% damage bonus against undead enemies. It's very thematic and fitting. Overall, Gray is a very strong option for farming teams, and Masters will find that she fits right at home in any of those teams. If you're using Gray for anything other than farming though, she's going to need a little bit of help when it comes to spamming Rongominiad the maximum amount of times possible. I kind of think it's a shame that her 3rd skill doesn't increase in NP gauge charge the more you sink into its levels. In all honesty, I think that kind of makes it feel like it's not worth sinking any materials into that skill at all, and I really hope it gets a rank up someday. But with a guaranteed NP5, some massive boost to her attack, and of course the ability to decrease the card resistance of her enemies tied to her Noble Phantasm, I think Gray is going to be a really strong contender as a freebie assassin, not only for just anti-undead teams, but for any teams with a main assassin damage dealer. Masters, you're going to have a very strong freebie option if you finish the Case Files event. But I want to know what you all think, so go ahead and let me know your thoughts about Gray down in the comment section below. Let me know if there are any different allies you might want to pair her with. Let me know how the Case Files event is going for you, because I'm finding that it is a very, very fun event. I'm enjoying the riding immensely, and of course, I am enjoying any and all options to play with Zhuge Liang and my friends Surma Yi. Anyways, this is Kawaii50. If you want to talk more FGO, go ahead and consider hopping in the Discord. If you think I'm doing a good job, my Patreon is of course always available. And as far as Twitch goes, I did hit Twitch affiliate, so we've got follows, subscriptions, and bits available on that as well, streaming every Tuesday and Thursday at 7 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. I hope you're all having a phenomenal day, and I'll see you all in the next video.